Caseware Cloud What's New webinar. We will be covering two products today, that's CloudTax as well as CloudSec. So just to go through a bit of housekeeping. Our agenda for today, we'll start off with a bit of introductions, and then we move over to practice role players, which is one of the features that we've released. Then we'll jump on to taxpayer groups, and lastly, practice filtering. So I'm not alone today. I am joined by Myron, our practice management product manager. So a bit of housekeeping. The webinar will be 1 hour, 30 minutes, including 15 minutes for question and answers. All attendees are muted. Please ensure that you are muted at all times by clicking on the mic icon. There is a chat functionality that you can use if you need our attention, and you can make use of this at any point during the webinar. So my name is Michael. I am the product manager for Tax. Like I indicated, I'm not alone. I am joined by Myron, our practice management product manager.
Good morning, everyone.
So we split the roles for today. Myron will be playing the role of an administrator. That's setting up all the filters, as well as allocating staff to the respective taxpayers as well as clients. And I will be taking on the role of a practitioner, making use of all the settings that Myron has done. So without further ado, I will hand over to Myron.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. So as Michael said, my name is Myron. I'm the product manager for practice management at Caseware Africa. So my job today, as delegated by Michael, is to take you through a demonstration of our practice filtering, practice role player filtering that we've done. So just a bit of background. This has been quite a while in the making, this feature. And what it really boils down to is enabling you as a client to be able to report within your practice based on who the partner is, who the manager is, who the subset of clients are that belong to a specific role player. So we're very excited to show you this today. And without further ado, let me jump into it. I'm just going to share my screen. Do you need to just, I don't want to make myself presenter. Perfect. Mike, can you just confirm you can see my screen? Great. Great. So you'll all be familiar with this page, Caseware Cloud. So I'm just going to sign in here. So what we've done with the practice filtering is we've applied it to CloudSec and CloudTax. We've not applied it to Caseware Cloud as now, because that for us is a a bigger feature that we're working towards. All right, so the first thing is, if we jump, let's start with CloudSec. So the first thing in CloudSec that you'll notice is, on the far right-hand side, we've now added an option that says practice filtering. And within the practice admin. And within the practice admin tab, this is where you've got the option that says import practice role players. So we're going to select that. Now, the tax client would be quite familiar with this screen. There's something similar in CloudTax. So there's a couple of things on the screen. The first part is we've got the option to say download the template. So what we've done in this template is provided you with a layout of what the file needs to look like for you to import, right? So there's three means of setting up your practice role players, and I'm going to take you through a couple of it now. The first being bulk imports, right? And this is where you've got a list of your clients with the responsible, partner manager already in some format or another system that you keep track of. I know a lot of clients have Excel documents that they use to manually keep track of these. So we provided this template for you to fill in these respective fields and import it, and we'll go through the import in a sec. The second link here is to provide guidance. And what this does is it redirects you to our client success community. And here it gives you, we've got small little videos on how to run these, the import specifically. So if you ever need to reference back, right? Okay, so let's do this. So downloaded the template. I've completed my template. What's important when completing the template, the CSV, is that it is saved as a CSV file, right? So that's the only file type that will be picked up when you browse, right? So now I've selected the file to import, and there's a couple of things that we need to run through here. So the first is, once it's loaded, you would have noticed this screen popping up. And what this import overview screen says is there's 9 client records that are being imported, and there were no duplicates found, right, in terms of clients on this on the import file. The second thing, before we get into the data, is you'll notice there's similar columns to not similar, the same columns that you have in the import file. So entity number, name, partner, name, email, the same with manager and responsible person. And every column has got a filter option and a search. So let's just, right? So you can do a filtered search. Okay. Now, if we get into the interesting part, the data. So there's a couple of things that you'll notice here. When we import the CSV, we do certain validations. The first being on the entity number. So the requirement is the client has to exist in Caseware Collaborate already, and the user or the staff member also has to exist in Caseware Collaborate. When we import the data from the CSV, we validate the entity number and we validate the staff email address against those contained in the system. So in our example here, you'll notice there's the exclamation warning mark, there's the little box with a tick mark in it. And what that means is the warning means there's certain fields that have not passed validation. And you'll notice those through the red highlighted cells here. So in this first row, there's definitely something I need to correct. The ones with that tick box, it just says These are valid, they've passed, they're ready to import. Now, you'll notice if you look at row number 3 here, it's also ready for import, it's passed validation, but there's no partner or manager, partner name and email completed. And the reason for that is we did not want to force any firm or any of our clients to have to complete every one of these fields. Because of how different practices operate, in some instances you might have one partner in a firm, right, with 4 or 5 different managers. So we didn't want to force this as a mandatory field. Therefore, that row would have passed. Now, I have, what is this? 3. I have 9 on my list, right? But you could have 1,000 clients on this list, which is why it's important for you to be able to filter. So if you say, show me only the records that are invalid, these are the ones that you know you need to go back and you need to fix, right? It'll filter out only where there's invalid records. And those are the ones you can start working on. So I believe it's that, and this email is wrong, right? So you can click on any of these, the partner name, manager name, or responsible person name. Click on the drop down and you'll be presented with all the active staff members in the firm. So if I go and I select, see here, I can see what the problem was. The email there is .co.za, but the email on Caseware Cloud is actually .com. So I can select that user. You'll see it updates the email address and that record is now valid. Okay. Same with this one. There's a problem with Fazeka. So yeah. See, now we see that Fazeka either does not exist on Caseware Cloud or Fazeka is inactive, which means this client had to have been assigned to a different partner. Right, so let's assign him. Right, so that record is valid, and so you go on to fix the data. Now, this is one way to do it on this grid. The alternative is to fix it on the Excel document that you have and that you are importing, and then rerun the import. Okay, so I'm just going to remove my filter. You can now see still those 2 records are invalid. Some things to remember: when you make a change on this grid, it's important that you click Save Changes when you're done, just so you don't want to come back and have to redo any of the changes. We then have a couple of buttons at the bottom, right? So once you've now fixed all your data, you're going to save your changes. You then have the option to import all valid role players. So these are all the role players that have a green tick next to them. You can also export these role players. So let's actually go through that. If you export the role players, this is also a nice way for you to do any fixes, right? So you can export these role players and you can save this file as your new import file. Then we have the option to remove role players from this list. So I can go and say, well, that row is actually invalid and I want to remove that selected role player, and you'll notice I'm now only left with these. You also have the option to remove all the role players, right? To clear the screen if you want to rerun that import automatically. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's just I'm going to take this one that I had here and I'm going to adjust it so I can use this as my import file. So I'm going to say save as. Sorry, this is a bit of a long, right? So practice filtering. So interesting enough, you'll see there's an Excel sheet in there for practice role players, but this one I have to save as a CSV, right? So comma delimited. If I change that, you'll see there's also a CSV in there. So let's keep both, and then I'll show you. Okay. So now if I go back here, I'll see there's the CSV that we just saved. I'll double click that. Again, the same import overview, click refresh, and we'll see those two records obviously still invalid. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to continue with the import. But actually, before we do that, let's go call up two clients. So Honest Air and Housework. Let's do those. Housework. Okay, so just from a secretarial perspective, I want to add or show you this. There's now an additional section here called secretarial practice role players for the partner, manager, and responsible person. And you'll notice that there's nothing or no staff member selected for any of these. The same with Honest Air Group and Jardine. Oh, Jardine is an individual. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go back and I want to run that import. So we're going to say import all valid role players. Depending on how many clients you have and how many role players you're importing, this process might, the time might vary that it takes. Okay, so what you'll notice now is on the status, this green tick has changed. It's now bold tick and no longer in a square. And this means that this role player was successfully imported. And we can validate that again. Let's go call up those same two clients. Actually, just go to my clients. We have them open here. Right, so this was Honest Air Group, and we now have the partner, the manager, and the responsible person completed in this. Same with Housework. We're expecting, yeah, we had a manager allocated there, responsible person. We did not import the partner for that client. Okay. All right, so that was the bulk import process. The process works exactly the same in CloudTax. So if we just jump into CloudTax, same principle. You've got the practice admin, which is not a new concept in CloudTax. What is new is the import practice role players. And this is where you're going to, you'll notice the screen looks exactly the same. The import template, the guidance redirects you to the same place. So we try to keep it uniform, and the import function also exactly the same. So let's run that. Perfect. So in this instance, two things. The one being there's only one invalid record, and that's because that is the only one that's has a problem. Jardine, on the CloudSec side, you would have noticed the record was invalid, right? The entity number was invalid. And that's because on CloudSec, this client is an individual, right? On CloudTax, you would do work for a client, so provisionals, ITR 12, etc. But on CloudSec, it's not a secretarial client, right? It's a role player, which is why you can't import a partner or manager against an individual. Other than that, everything else remains exactly the same with CloudTax. The same buttons, the same options, the same filters. Mike, do you want me to run the import on this one? Okay, so let's run the import on CloudTax as well. So we will import all valid role players. Right, and then let's call up two clients that are invalid. So first I'm going to look at furrows. Look at furrows, frame scene, and there. Let's do that. Frame scene and honest. Okay. So if we look at that's furrows, frame scene, and honest group, right? So if we start with honest group, you'll notice the tax role player section that is not new in CloudTax, right? This has already been there, or has always been there. It was a manual selection that had to be done per client, but we've just run that import that have populated the partner, the manager, and the responsible person for this client. Okay. On frame scene, you would notice the same. There's a partner, a responsible person, but there's no manager, and that's because there was no manager imported. And then furrows, you'll notice there's no partner, no responsible person, and no manager. So if you keep note of this client, furrows, let's see why that was not imported. All right, that's because furrows was not validated. It didn't pass validation. If you had to fix this, because we set Vazeka as inactive or doesn't exist, so if we make sure record is valid, let's import all valid rows. So just that, and then let's go back to taxpayers and let's refresh furrows. So now we'll see on furrows, the validation passed and the import ran successfully. Partner, manager, responsible person, allocator. Okay. Great. So that's the process from an import perspective. You'll notice it looks exactly the same between CloudSec and CloudTax. The import file, the template we provide for you. It's a pretty straightforward template. Note that the entity number and all the email addresses for the practice role players are mandatory in the sense of validation. So if they're incorrect, the record can't be validated. If there's only a name completed and no email address, the record will also be listed as invalid. If a staff member is inactive, it will also be listed as invalid, and you'll need to fix those. And then again, the process works exactly the same between CloudSec and CloudTax. Perfect. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Michael to take us through the reporting, the filtering, and some of the grouping for taxpayers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Myron. While I share my screen, Myron, please let me know if you can see my screen.
Not yet. Let me just make you presenter. Oh.
Okay. Thanks, Myron. So now, where do we make use of these filters? I'll start off with CloudTax. So in CloudTax, After all the allocations have been done by our administrator, Myron, and now when I come to my daily work, how I make use of these filters. On the quick search bar, on the right, there is a filter icon. So if I click on that, what happens is a filter option pops up. And you will notice that there is 4 fields that have been included. In the past, there used to be one field which was called portfolios. But now portfolios has fallen away and we now have a new concept of taxpayer groups, which I will give more details a little bit later. So now our filters that we want to concentrate on now are partner, manager, as well as responsible person. So if you want to filter for a certain partner or a certain partners, what you do is you click on there and a list of all your staff members will be shown. You can either individually select the staff member that is a partner, or you quickly search by typing the first few characters of their name, and that will pop up. So in this instance, we want to filter for Shal as the partner, click OK. You can have certain combinations of who the partner is, who the managers are, and who the responsible people are. So for this instance, I just want to filter for Shal's clients wherein he is the partner. When I click on apply, what you will notice is that icon turns red and there is a little a reset button next to it. So now, if I want to see who Shal's clients are, wherein he is the partner, if I click on my taxpayers, I notice that Shal is a partner for those 3 clients. And clicking on one of those clients, I can confirm that indeed Shal is allocated as the partner. So now if I want to further enhance the filter to include a responsible person, I'll put myself as the responsible person. So now the filter will filter out all the clients where Shal is the partner and I am the responsible person. If I click on apply and jump back to my taxpayers, I'll see that there is only one client wherein we are both, I and Shal are both role players within that taxpayer. So it's only Shal who's the partner and I am the responsible person, and there is only one client within that field. So resetting that, a full list of our taxpayers will pop up. Now, again, if I click on the filter and I just want to view where Myron is the manager, I can also view a list of those taxpayers. And in this instance, it's only one. Now, just another quick check of where these filters will be applied. So in CloudTax, they will be applied on the practice overview screen, the processes, both provisionals, as well as income tax return processes. And again, your My Taxpayers list will be filtered out based on the filter that you have applied. And the same goes for your e-filing notification center. Right, so now I want to jump over to CloudSec to see how those filters work. Opening up CloudSec. So the concept is the same. The filters will work in exactly the same way as in CloudTax. So this is quite an interesting and useful feature that our clients have been asking for, and we are excited to be showing it to you today. So in CloudSec, you will see that there is now a new filter icon, the same as in CloudTax. The only difference with CloudSec is that there is no groups in CloudSec. So we've got our filter options being partner, manager, as well as the responsible person. So if I filter where Myron is the partner, click OK and apply, I will be able to see the clients where Myron is the partner. And on the practice overview, again, it will be filtered out by those respective filters applied there. And the same goes with your tasks. The tasks where Myron is responsible for the clients will be filtered out in that instance. And the same goes also for reports. Right. So all the reports that you will generate will be filtered out only for the clients that have been selected in that instance there. So if I can go to the directorship, if I can go to reports for, in this instance, client summary. And I will tick there, use applied practice filters. So what that will do, it will inherit the practice filters that we've set up there and generate. So it will be only the reports where Myron is the partner using the filter that we have set up. So the report will be generated in that instance. Cool. So the last thing that I want to show is in CloudTax, which is the taxpayer groups. So under our practice admin, we have taxpayer groups as a setting. So clicking on that, for those clients that used to use portfolios, you will notice that that has been renamed to taxpayer groups. And it still works the same as what we had in the past as portfolios. But the intention here is to group clients based on desired permutations. Like if you are responsible for a group of companies as your taxpayers, taking, for instance, a holding company A, which has got subsidiaries 1 up to 10. So if you want to group those and being able to see the progress for that particular group, you can allocate all those subsidiaries into a group. Another way that you can make use of these groups is if you want to group your taxpayers per region, to say taxpayers within Johannesburg, taxpayers within Pretoria, taxpayers within Durban, and taxpayers within Cape Town. You can have those desired groups in order to keep track of progress, as well as work on those in a given chunk or block. So how that works, you can create the group. So in this instance, I will be creating webinar group 3. Group 3, and I can put in a description to say all taxpayers in region 4. Right. Once I create, I am able to add entities to that desired group, and I will select those 5 entities. You've got also the option to search for the entities based on the code, the name, and then ultimately allocate them. Or you can select all the entities that are within your view. Once that is done, I will save and close. So our webinar group 3 now has entities allocated to them. So what I'll do now is jump back to my practice overview screen, filter for taxpayer group, webinar group 3. So within webinar group 3, I am able to see the clients that are allocated to that group there, which is webinar group 3. In addition to filtering out by group, I can add also a partner to say, I want to see those clients within group 3 where Shal is the partner, and it will filter it out by as desired. So again, you can reset the filter and it will take you back to your full view. So just a note, when you want to view or when you want to know if a filter has been applied or not, you must keep a lookout on the color of that icon as well as the reset button. If the icon is gray, it means no filters are applied. But if it is red, in this instance, then it means a filter has been applied and a reset button will be enabled next to the filter. So we are happy to take any questions. Please make use of the questions function in order to ask any questions. Myron, at this point, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about, well, while we wait for any questions, I want to talk about something that's probably top of mind for most, and that is the beneficial ownership in the register and the requirement to the CRPC and the Master of the High Court. So we are currently in the process of speccing and putting out that, or designing the feature as well as developing it. And we're hoping to get it out in the next roughly 2 months. It's quite an interesting feature that we're going to do, and it's important for us to not rush it, but also get it out as soon as possible, right? So we want to get the requirements right, as opposed to just releasing something very basic that's not really going to make any of our clients' lives easier. So bear with us. We know about the deadline that's changed, 24 May, and we are actively working on it. From a CloudTax perspective, the beneficial ownership will be part of the upcoming release. From a CloudSec perspective, as you can probably appreciate, it's a much bigger feature because of the detail in the requirement. So yeah, that'll be coming your way in the next probably 2 months. Look out for that, and we're excited to share that with you. Again, if there are any questions or comments, please feel free to pop them in the chat. You also have my email address from the release mailer that was sent yesterday. You are welcome to send us an email. Just a note, please bear with me if it takes longer than 1 day to reply. It's quite high volumes, but I will definitely get back to each and every one of you. In addition, we will also be making available the webinar. It's recorded, so we'll make it available after the session, and everyone will get an updated link to it. That's it from me, Michael. Anything else from your side?
To recap on what we covered today, so we covered practice role players, and that was the allocation of role players in both CloudTax and CloudSec, as well as the import of those role players. We also covered taxpayer groups in CloudTax, how to create the groups, and how to allocate taxpayers to those respective groups. And lastly, the practice filtering. So again, if there are any questions, please feel free to send them through, and we will be happy to respond to them. Just a quick note on the tax space. So on our roadmap, we've got quite a few releases that will be going out. The first one being the update to our corporate tax returns in CloudTax. That will be going out on Friday. And then after that, the tax season will be opening on the 7th of July. So our release will be going out on the 14th of July. That is after us doing some live submissions and also some comprehensive testing before we release. Included in that release will be quite a few features that you will need to look out for. And we will be hosting a webinar in preparation for the tax season. That will be on the 13th of July. The invite will be going out on Monday. Be on the lookout for that. Once again, thank you very much for joining in, and all the best. Chat soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everyone. So for everyone that's still on the webinar, there's a couple of questions. So I thought we'd just quickly run through those. The first one being, so Sadia asked about the register for the master. And I think I already covered this when I spoke about the roadmap. So we'll be putting out that in the next 2 months. So the feature around beneficial ownership. So that's the master and the CRPC. For now, the master does provide the template on the website that can be used to populate and submit. And we will make provision for that to be imported into CloudSec, so there's no duplication of capture. Okay. The next question, is the beneficial ownership only going to be implemented in CloudSec and not Caseware? So we will be focusing on Caseware as well, because we've got quite a number of clients still on Caseware. So we'll make provision for that as well. Am I correct in understanding that the bulk details import is only for companies and not individuals? Danielle, so on the CloudTax side, it'll be for all entities, right? On the CloudSec side, it is for all non-individual entities. And the reason for that is an individual in a secretarial context is more role playing, right? It'll be a director or shareholder, or whatever the case is, but not necessarily a secretarial entity. And that's why we decided to not allocate for them. There's also, it can become quite muddied if you think about it. So between, let's say, 1,000 clients, you might have 5,000 entities or individuals, right? Which are your different directors, your shareholders, your public officers related to that entity. So if you had to allocate a partner and a manager to all those individuals, it would not really add efficiency. So that's the reason why we removed that. Okay, next one. Oh, that was just a correction from Kamagelo. The next question, and Michael did answer this on the group. The question is, will there be in future a task option and payment due filter? So I'm not sure if everyone saw the response, but Michael is saying we are working on the payment due option. In the first release, the option will be for individuals, and we aim to have this during the tax season. Okay. Danelle is asking, can we get assistance with the importing? Danelle, I'm assuming you are talking about the importing of the role plays we just discussed. So we will make available this video, but we also have put together some collateral, right? So on YouTube, we've published 3 videos covering how to allocate the role plays individually, how to import them in bulk, as well as using the filtering function. So if you just reference back to the release mailer we sent out last night, it'll take you to the release page together with where all the videos are. Okay, and then we'll also make available this recording afterwards. Would it be possible to export tasks in Cloud to Excel? I'm not quite sure, Quentin, if you are referring to Caseware Collaborate, CloudSec, CloudTax. So from a CloudTax perspective, for example, you already can export tasks, but I'm assuming you might be referring to Caseware Cloud. So for now, in Caseware Cloud specifically, you can export certain views, but you cannot export the tasks or the queries or discussions per se, but there are plans to enhance on that, definitely. I hope that answers the question, Quentin. If you want to expand or clarify on that, you're welcome to just drop me an email, drop me a note, and we can chat through that. Okay. So there's no other questions, but I think we'll leave the webinar running for another 5 or so minutes, just in case there are more questions. You're welcome. And yeah, for those that are jumping off, have an awesome day, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll chat again soon. Thank you, Quentin. We can still have a chat just about the plans of what you're trying to achieve with those, but we can take that offline. Okay, perfect, everyone. So it doesn't seem like there are any more questions. Again, thank you for joining us. You're welcome to pop us an email, either through your account manager, or you also have the email address from the mailer that we sent out. So with that, thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.